totally concur. So
All right. We're good, Tim. Buttons are hit. Everything's rocking. I believe we're live on Facebook too. So let's.
All right. Well, welcome everybody in the One Life community. We're so honored and appreciative of Mr. Jeff Hoffman joining us today. Jeff is just done amazing things with his life. He's if you've ever gone through an airport and went to one of the kiosks, Jeff invented it. He's one of the founding members of Priceline.com. But even more, he's such a great humanitarian who cares about people from all walks of life and gives tirelessly of his time through service. And he's just one of the most amazing people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. So without further ado, Mr. Jeff Hoffman, welcome. So
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you guys for doing this. I think, again, it's great for all of us to be able to still stay connected and talk about what's on our mind during, and all of us keep growing and learning during a time like this.
Yeah. So Jeff, you know, like what was we all know what your life was like pre-corona. How has this changed your world?
It's been awfully dramatic for all of the obvious reasons that everybody else is dealing with. My, for the last 6 or 7 years, my mission has been to basically, inspire, mentor, teach entrepreneurs around the world. And as you guys know, sometimes I'm in a different country every week. So again, my mission was very geographical, very travel-based. I've been working with kids around the world and women's groups around the world and entrepreneurial entities. So to go from being almost in a different country every week to no travel at all is a massive, it's a big adjustment for everybody. But if you spent all your time on the road, it's a really big adjustment. Plus, Tim, it changes the focus, right? Because we went overnight from I'm spending my time especially with small business owners and entrepreneurs, teaching them how to scale. The question is, how do I grow? Now the question is, how do I even survive? So we went from worrying about scaling and growing and how much you could increase to, a lot of frightened people saying, I don't even know if I can make it through this and keep my company alive. So been a lot of changes overnight for all of us.
Right. So I've got an interesting question for you.
Sure.
So think back to when you were a young person. What would you tell your 22-year-old self that was going through this? Just think of a young person just starting out. Well,
I would have told my 22-year-old self to enjoy your hair while you still have it, because that ain't going to last. Since you gave me the benefit of hindsight, I would have, I don't know, washed it, combed it, took pictures of it or something. I think looking back, one of the things, there are some, this may come as a surprise to some of the younger people on the call, but there are actually some benefits to getting older. So one of the things you do as you learn lessons is you start to realize more and more what actually matters and what doesn't. And when I was early 20s, it was so much easier to get caught up in things that society, everybody tells you matter, and they don't. So I know, Tim, you guys have heard me talk about this before, but if I was talking to myself back then, the definition of success that we're all raised with, that everybody's trying to get rich and famous. Today everyone was trying, forget Corona for a minute. Everybody was trying to get internet famous, or everybody, talks about the billion-dollar company or whatever. And so the focus on the definition of success, that's the one I was told my whole life. We all are. So I wish I could tell my 22-year-old self, don't even worry about that stuff, because in the end, none of that's going to make you happy. That's all a byproduct, and it isn't the definition of success. I wish I'd known that, because I might have saved some time and not engaged with some people and pursued some paths I did when I thought I was chasing something different.
Cool. So that was like when you were just starting out. How would you have looked at this different, maybe around 35 or 40?
Then you start to realize, all right, if we skip ahead that far, then you start to realize, I think, the critical importance of relationships, right? Because when I got past that in my 20s and in my 30s, I was still focusing on the business side of business more. And it took me probably till later before I realized that it's all about people. It is all about relationships, and that business is all about people. And, you know, I remember at one point doing a TV interview, and a reporter said to me, you know, is life all about the journey or the destination? Because that was kind of the cool thing. And I remember answering her, I said, neither. It's not about the journey or the destination. It's just about the people you're traveling with. If things aren't going well for you, but you're surrounded by the right people, you'll get through it. You'll laugh it off. You'll support each other. And if things are going well for you and you don't have people to share it with, what's the point? So I think that's probably the key thing I would have told myself further along, is that it's all about people and it's all about relationships, and build those, nurture them, and feed them. I would have done a better job of that earlier on.
Wow. So having been through, you know, a number of, you know, up and down cycles and crises, if you will, what have you learned, and how is this one different?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been other economic crises before and other things that we've been through. And, you know, I'm actually going to point back to my previous answer a little bit, because the biggest thing I've learned is that we need each other. That your network, again, is everything. Who is in your life that you can count on? Who takes care of you? Who do you need to check on? So I think that's the biggest learning, is that your network, you don't build your network when you need it. You build it way before you need it. And having a family, and, you know, that's what you guys know this well. The reason that I always show up for One Life stuff is because it's the One Life tribe. It's a family. It's a group of people. Like I said, as I look at the names of the participant, there's a lot of people here that we all know, if anything went wrong, we could call each other, right? Like I see Brianna on here. I know if I called Bri and said help, she'd probably get on a plane anyway and come help me. So having people in your life, in your network, business, personal, professional, all of it, there's really no line. It's all about people. Is everything in the crisis. That's how everybody helps each other get through. This one's different because we didn't really have the social distancing thing before, right? That's kind of a new phenomenon. And so closing everything, for example, one of the things, I've been working on a couple of things. I've been asked to help on the presidential task force and working on the stimulus package for small businesses. But one that's more near and dear to my heart, I was trying to think of and everybody here should think of it. What are the ripple effects of this social distancing stuff? I wish they wouldn't call it that. I'm going to be on national TV again tomorrow morning, and I'm going to slip in that I wish we could stop saying social distancing and start just saying physical distancing, because physical distance is important, but socially we should be closer than ever. So I was trying to think about ripple effect, and one of them that occurred to me, because it's relevant to some other work, is there are kids in every single city whose only meal every day comes from their free school lunch. Families that have no food. And those kids only eat once a day, and it's the free school lunch, and now there's no school. Who's feeding those kids? Nobody is. So as an example, I sort of activated people in my network, and we've been working with schools and churches around the country to get food to the kids that no one was thinking about. Everyone's thinking, they got to go do school at home. Well, they can't eat at home. They only ate at school. So I'm just giving that as an example of what's different here. The social distancing, to answer your question, causes us to think of so many new problems that nobody thought through when any of this stuff happened.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff, Jeff. Hector, why don't we rip into some of the questions that some of our audience has? Hector? All right.
Sorry, I had a crying. We had a mishap, a little fall over here, and I had to go run and grab little Cash here. So he's
hey,
he's
sweet.
in tow.
Hey, buddy.
He's pretty excited. What did I miss, Tim?
There were some good questions in the chat, and
We're
no
just
worries,
asking you
man.
what's in the chat.
I understand you're
Yeah.
doing
So
double.
no worries. One of the ones that came up was, what's your outlook on the economy? You know, is it something that I said, is it going to be a quick snapback or something that's longer? And you know, what's your advice to entrepreneurs looking to get ahead in times like this?
Well, let's separate those very different questions. The first one on the economy overall, it's a sector by sector answer. And the reason that I say that is obviously the whole economy's down, the market's down, all those things. But some industries, again, this was another thing I was talking about on TV last week. Some industries are being born and will come back, stronger. I'll give you an example. Everything that has to do with remote working and work at home. Now there's the acronym WFH. Most people didn't even know what that was. Work from home was not even a term that everybody was using. A percentage of the population was pretty small. And now that all these companies and people are stuck at home, companies are finding ways to use these tools. For example, people that have never done a Zoom call have tried Zoom for the first time ever during this, during all this lockdown stuff. And so people that are in all the online information sharing, learning, and communications business, their economy is going way up, as an example. Here's the flip side. Travel, I don't think ever comes back to where it was, because we're all not traveling now. And in the meantime, what I was just referring to, a lot of companies are using technology that have never used it before in place of in-person meetings. When all this ends, a lot of them are going to say, you know what? We don't really have to fly the staff in for the monthly meeting anymore. That Zoom thing, that's pretty good stuff, or whatever tool they're using. So I don't think the travel sector of the economy ever recovers. Cruises might take a long time, as an example. So pieces, my answer to the question is, pieces of the economy will come back stronger and grow that didn't exist before. And because everyone's finding new ways to feed people and to check on people. Telemedicine's another one that'll come back big in the economy. How do you take care of patients when neither side can leave home? People were already developing that, but it was growing slowly. Now it's growing way faster. And some parts of the economy, are probably never going to be the same as they were. So that's the economy part. But let me address the other part of that question, which was about entrepreneurs and small businesses, because right now everybody is in survival mode. But what I've been really proud of, and I've been hearing stories from entrepreneurs all over the world, is the number of people that went into repurpose mode. What is it you have what skills, right, or equipment or resources or anything do you have that you could redeploy during this time to help with the overall crisis? Whether it's medical related, medical supplies and people, whether it's education related, because suddenly we're teaching people at home, I'm just listing these because there's so many new categories. Whether it's, online learning was one, online health is one, feeding people, right? All kinds of people in the distribution system of finding new ways to get food to people and delivery services. There's so many sort of new opportunities, and a lot of the startups, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I see are calling their whole team in, getting the whole team on one call and saying, guys, and this is something I've recommended to a lot of companies. Somebody get at a whiteboard, right? You can share a whiteboard on Zoom. Somebody get at a whiteboard and list what are our core skills of everybody that works here, right? On one side, you list your core skills and capabilities. On the other side, you make that list of problems that need solving, like I was just talking about. Getting food to people when restaurants are closed, getting medicine to people, getting medical supplies, diagnosing and talking to people, teaching kids, all the new things in the economy right now, you put on the right side of the board, and then you draw a map and you say, how many of these things could we deploy our skill set to attack? So I've seen companies that started with a complete panic. I'm going to lose my whole business because all my revenue shut off. And now they're telling me I can't hire fast enough, even though they're remote workers, because we found a way to apply our skills to solve one of these problems right now and the demand is off the hook. Tim, you're muted. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're muted. There you go. Nope, it went back on mute. It went off and on. There you go.
Sorry about that. You don't have to name the company, but can you give us an idea of what that looked like? Like, what did they do before, and what did they shift over to? How did
well, there's a bunch of them. I'll give you an example. Many of the companies I knew that owned 3D printers are printing all kinds of medical equipment right now, from masks, 3D printed masks, to gloves, to all kinds of stuff. And they were doing mechanical factory like gears before, and now they're printing all medical stuff. And he was telling me, I got to bring more people in because we're getting so many calls to do this stuff. There was another one that was in a delivery business, but they didn't deliver food before, and they've been contacting all kinds of food delivery restaurants and stuff that never delivered before. So never did takeout even, they were just restaurants. So they have no mechanism for getting food to people. And his company was already in a delivery of completely non-related office supplies or some non-related product. So they started just calling all the food vendors in their city and saying, we'll deliver for you. And suddenly, he's bringing on more staff because he just can't keep up with demand for that. Somebody else had an application that was focused more on a customer service technology where you talk to an online service agent. I think it might have been car buying or something. And they started calling local hospitals and medical centers and saying, can you use our platform for people that are too sick to leave home to talk to a doctor virtually? So their platform was for advising, financial advising and stuff, or auto purchase. I can't remember. But what he's doing now is he's actually doing a medical thing. So again, people are saying what needs to be done in the world now, and what skills do we have, and is there any way we can repurpose ourselves? And some of them are thriving big time because they did that.
That's beautiful. So you're talking on a high level, corporate level. Let's bring it down to one life. Allie Sprung's on this call. She's around 30 years old. She asked, Jeff, in trying to reposition and being agile in adjusting, what's the best way you found to make those changes? Put yourself in the shoes of a 30-year-old young lady whose world has just been turned upside down. How best to shift, to adjust?
Well, I think that it starts because coronavirus is a physical thing, and because every city and state and county, for that matter, are coming up with different rules. I think it's very much a geographic thing. So I think the first thing you should do is reach out in your physical community, right? What are the rules? And again, it's because the rules aren't the same in every county, in every city, in every state. Reach out physically to those categories I just talked about in your community. How are people getting food where you live? How are people getting medicine where you live? Who is taking care of pets and animals for sick people? Is there any form of, how are the schools? I was talking to somebody earlier whose school has never, she said, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Our school's never had any online anything. And all our kids are at home waiting to be taught, and our school has no idea what to do, and they wish somebody could help them with their, literally, you could be talking to those teachers on a conference call and saying, let me give you an idea of how to do online education. So in your community, there's a list of all the things people need, and you could be making a short number of phone calls to see which ones are working and which ones aren't, again, mapped to the skills that you have. Can I help with one of those things? So if you already have some kind of online training, maybe you do executive coaching or something, you should be on the phone with the principal of the school district in your area saying, hey, I could show you guys how to do this. I do online for a living, and I know that your teachers have never taught anything online. Because like I said, right before this call, I was on a call where the parents were telling me, our school has no idea what to do next. They've never had anything online, and they've never done remote learning. So start with your community, make a list of the things that need to get done in every community, and then call the suspects in your community. Who should be doing this? Who normally does this? And see if there's something your company can do to help them.
It's beautiful. It's great advice. So I got a great statement and then a question from Ray Bayat. He says, Jeff, you rock. You're giving of yourself in the world, including being on this call is right now. You're just amazing. How can we be of service to you?
I think, well, first of all, thank you very much for saying that. I am just trying to do my part too. And we've been really thrilled that we've been able to, I was happy to go help write the stimulus package and try to help small businesses everywhere where I could, but and that's why I'm doing the other television appearances. But being able to do things like feeding kids that we found out have no meal now that free school lunch is over makes me feel like an actual productive member of society. So the answer to your question is, I would love to hear stories after this. And my email, by the way, is just jeff@jeffhoffman.com, easy to find. But I would love to hear stories after this of what you're doing in your community. So, Tim, you know this well, as does Brian and Hector and Susan and everybody. For me, it's all about the ripple effect. Mm-hmm. The times that the best payback I ever get of anything in my life is when somebody sends me a note and said, hey, I heard you talking the other day and it inspired me to go do something in my community and here's what I'm doing. And that's the ripple effect, right? You don't pay it backwards to the person that helped you. You pay it forward to somebody that needs your help. So again, I'd love to hear stories of what you guys are doing in your communities. And that's the thing that I always consider, quote, payback for me is seeing other people do what they can do.
Along those lines, Hector, if you could unmute Felicia, I bet Jeff would love to hear her story. And when you get that, right. Yeah, when you get that together, let me know. But there she is right there. There she is. Check this out. And please show her beautiful.
You have your video, Felicia?
Sure, why not?
Are we pronouncing it right, or is it Felicia?
You sure are. Yeah, mine's the Irish version. It's Felicia.
All right, cool. I should have figured Tim would know the Irish version.
I'll work on bringing.
He's local from Reno, Nevada. Hit it, Felicia. What did you do?
Felicia, do you have video so we can see your smile?
I do, and I'm not sure where it is on here. Usually.
Well,
she's gonna hop back in and she'll be able to.
There we go.
All right, cool.
Hello.
Tell us about it.
Okay, just really fast. So I own a distillery here in Reno, and I was asked to go ahead and switch over to making the hand sanitizer, so medical grade alcohol. And then we took it a step further, so we're actually making the hand sanitizer because many didn't know where or how to source the other ingredients like the aloe vera juice and everything else that needs to go in there and not rip people's hands up. So of course there is a medical component needed everywhere for that. Here's my question for you, Jeff. I've been asked to, one of our neighbors, he's a doctor out of Ghana, and he's teaching at our university here in Reno for the medical field. He asked if I would go ahead and get training to villages in Ghana for how to make the hand sanitizer. And I'm not really sure how to best assist them. I came out of Alaska for, was up there for many, many years and taught in the bush. So I comprehend how to probably best teach in the village bush setting. So I've got that component down. What I don't understand is I need the technical end of it. Is it best to do like a Zoom conference with the villages, or is there something better? I have no background with Ghana at all.
Okay, so complete side note, not only do we have an office in Ghana, but a good relationship with the president of Ghana and a lot of people there. So when we get off, send me an email and I'm going to connect you to the man. His name's David in Ghana. Super high tech, well connected. He will get you rolling. So
that is awesome. I wasn't sure if I should. I have a, the wife of the doctor, Fausta Amphifer. She could be the translator. My one concern was that I didn't want to teach them on the video, and then me just speaking English, not Ghana at all. Then we would miss out on villagers that don't speak English. So.
First of all, congratulations. This is a wonderful example of everything we've been talking about this morning. I love what you're doing. Keep us all posted. And then, like I said, when you're done, send me an email and I will send you connect you directly to David in Accra, in Ghana. and that is the man that will make this happen.
Perfect.
He-
Oh,
he
thank
speaks
you
all
very
the
much.
language.
Okay, so I desperately want to help them and wasn't sure quite the best way and then to make sure it was actually effective. So thank you
That
for
is-
that.
No, thank you. That is a wonderful
Woohoo, you're
story.
welcome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great example. I've been watching this brew out of Reno, Nevada, which is 40 miles from my home. And Felicia is a superstar to begin with as an entrepreneur. A great example of many mastery levels. She's an amazing parent with relationships, amazing business person, and just an amazing human being. And to see her do this shift just shows, people doing things at on the fly, making moves, just like you were saying, Jeff. So
That's awesome. And you said shift, right? To see her do the shift. Is that the word you said?
the shift. Yes.
Okay, just making sure there was an F in there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes, because the shift has hit the fan, and it's time.
No doubt. Felicia, thank you and congrats.
Thank you
We
very
will
much.
keep following you. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you. Could you go a little deeper on what this shift means? Like where might new opportunities be that weren't there yesterday? What should people be thinking about?
All right, so we hit on them all, but let's go back to the list. Telemedicine has been kind of brewing around there, right? How does the medical industry go online, at home, and digital? People being able to diagnose themselves, people being able to converse and share info with doctors. The whole field of telemedicine you should be Googling because it's like 1% developed and it's a huge opportunity. The same thing goes with distance learning. The education system is really, and I've looked at it all over the world and across this country, is really basic. Yes, there are products out there, and yes, there's online college and things like that, but it's not spread down to the lower levels, obviously, because you never thought to do online learning for middle school kids, and now we have that. That goes from elementary to middle school to high school to college. All the levels of online learning are going to be a huge opportunity. Then the third one is WFH, work from home. The tool set, like we're all using Zoom right now, but the tool set for work from home is going to have a chance to grow dramatically because people are trying to do all kinds of things that they never did before. And that includes training and education. So here's an opportunity for anybody. All these companies, and I hear from them all the time, and I hear from the bigger ones, especially when I'm on TV afterwards, a lot of them reach out to me. The bigger companies, even if they have the tool set for online, for work from home, for teleworking, their employees don't know how to use it. Their managers don't. They don't know how to share documents. They don't know the best practices of distant, of working from home and of teleworking. So if your company was geared to, and I'm making this up on the fly, but if you were teaching workshops and trainings and literally offering to train somebody's entire workforce on how to be most effective using today's online tools to get work done, you would be turning away work because all the companies are telling me, we see the tools, we've never used them before, how do we train our workforce? So there's a third example. The fourth industry, again, one that we touched on was the one that obviously Amazon stock is going up because they're loving this, but all kinds of ways to get services to people that don't require people to drive somewhere. People are, they can't go now. Again, we talked about food as a big one, and there already was DoorDash and Uber Eats and other things, but that's still a huge opportunity. And just thinking through what are all the things, think about the toiletry thing, right? The fact that everybody wanted certain household supplies. And so now there are people, I'm going to give you an example. Subscription services. I heard somebody saying that they wanted to get on a subscription service for a lot of the consumables that they use in their house so that they're always just automatically shipped to them and not in a panic running to the store or trying to find them when everybody else can't. I'm just thinking through, so all kinds of things that can be delivered. So those are all areas, again, work from home, telemedicine, distance learning, all kinds of consumer product distribution. All these areas people were already in them, but they were all in their early stages, and they're all opportunities. If you dig in, you should be able to build a whole new business, just sort of like Felicia was telling us. She wasn't in the hand sanitizer business or anything like that, and who knows what that might lead to for her outside of her traditional business in the distillery, because she's re-equipped herself to face a new need. Lots of opportunities, but you got to be sitting and thinking through the way things are, the ways things were, and the way things are going to be.
That was brilliant. Yeah, I totally concur with it. Telemedicine was non-existent basically.
Right.
And it seems like it's going to be a big opportunity. Hector, did you have something you want to chime in with?
Yeah, I just thought this would be a great time to talk about this week. I mentioned a little bit before we started our call that this is the beginning of our One Life Thrive, and it's a multi-week event, and we don't know how long this is going to be going on, but as long as people are going through this, we're going to be here to support you. And so every day we'll be releasing something new. So today on Mondays, we have our Monday Mastery, and we kicked it off today with the best that the best that you could get, really. And next week we have some more superstars coming on. On Tuesdays, Tim is going to release something called Tips with Tim. So you'll hear some stuff from him. On Wednesdays, we have Wisdom Wednesdays. There's Throwback Thursdays. So we're actually going to dig into the vault and find one of Jeff's recent talks at a One Life live event. So you'll get some of that. And then on Saturday is our another live event. We're calling it a checkup with Tim. So kind of like going to the doctor. We thought it would be fitting, to kind of sit down with Tim and dig into where you're at financially and where you're at, on your One Life roadmap. And so you'll get a chance to work with him and Brother James Saturday morning. And that's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific. So we'll do those every week while we're going through this to make sure that we can support you guys. So join the One Life Thrive group. If you go to onelifefullylive.org/thrive, you can join our group and you can get all that stuff in there as well. So there's a lot of questions in here, Jeff. And I think what's really cool is one of them was about the telemedicine. So I'm glad that you touched on that. A lot of people have questions about the economy. But one thing that we hadn't talked about was, where do people go from here, and how do people use this as a lesson? Someone asked, what could you have done differently during the crisis or leading up to the crisis, and how do people use this to make sure that moving forward they're in a better place the next time something, God forbid, like this happens again?
So there's an easier part and a hard part. The hard part is financially really, really hard to plan for, right? Every business sort of has its rules of cash reserves that you keep for any potential unknown. But the truth is, when you're a startup or small business, you don't usually have those cash reserves. But let's focus on the other piece, because I actually used to do this all the time with my businesses. What happens is when things are going well, everybody gets so focused, or even if they're not, on growing on your day-to-day business, and your head's down buried in what you do for a living. But I actually used to do this as a quarterly exercise. About once a quarter, I would call my team together and we would do a what if. And we would literally lay out all these scenarios. What if there was another 9/11? What would that mean to us? And what would we do about it? What if there was, one time we never predicted coronavirus, but one time we had a discussion of biowarfare. What if there was a disease that somebody launched, during all this Iraq and Iran and all this threats, the Iranians threatened biowarfare once, whatever. So I had my whole team. I said, what if there was something like that and we couldn't go outside? So doing a quarterly what if, what kind of crazy things could happen in the world? One time we did the market one. What if, for whatever reason, there's another, like back in 2009, massive recession and the market crashes? So doing these what if exercises once or twice a year, or we did them quarterly, or you say what things could happen in the world around us. And then as you go across the board writing that, what are the implications of those things? What do those implications mean to us? And if it really happened, what would we do? So 9/11, we actually had not talked about 9/11 per se, but we'd had one day where we sort of talked about war and terrorism. What if there were terrorist attacks in the US? We had some level of discussion. And so some of the post 9/11 stuff, we actually had thought through some things, and I think suffered in some ways less damage than other companies, because some of the things we said, well, we've already discussed this and the whole team sort of knows what to do. And we'd prepped some things. For example, we'd had some disaster recovery stuff off-site in case there was ever an attack. And it turned out the physical part of the quote attack was in New York and Washington, which didn't affect us. But if it had, we had physically backed up, we had a hot disaster site, things like that. So have a discussion periodically with your whole team and say, what might happen next? What could happen in the world? What does it imply? And how would it affect us? And then based on how would it affect us, if it did happen, what could we do to help ourselves? So that's my answer to that part. The financial part is super hard, right? Because I see that, I just checked the market a minute ago. I see the market is starting out up again, but nobody anywhere predicted any of this, right? And, when the markets go down in the financial markets and, if there is a recession, it's all of us at the same time together. So you could have that discussion, but, I'm just being really brutally honest here. The answer is, what would I do in an economic crisis? One part of that is, we'll save for it so we have reserves. Well, that's easy to say. But when you're a startup and you're growing, you don't have reserves, you don't have extra cash. You're putting your money back in the business. So that's why I was saying that instead of, believing that you could just save a ton of money in case you ever need it, because it's hard to do. Obviously, it's a good idea. It's hard to do as a small business, even personally. The better question for a small business is, what could we redeploy ourselves? How could we make money a different way? Like we've been talking about this whole time, about people like Felicia is doing. How else could you make money during a crisis, during one of those instances? By the way, there's one other thing besides making money I forgot to suggest earlier. When I said you should call all the people in your community, but from schools to food banks to medical centers, to see how you can help, you should also offer your people. If you have people that are at home, they don't have full-time work right now anyway, you should be offering them. You should say, hey, if anybody needs a marketing person, we have ours. Because what I'm discovering is that I told you there are some businesses hiring like crazy, like the Amazon Primes and the FedExes and, a lot of the online food service. And so I had a guy, it's just a quick example, that said he had to lay off a bunch of his customer service people for the time being. But I told him he needed to be calling the local community, and all of them got hired as food service drivers. So at least they got some income, because the people that were delivering food in that community, there weren't enough delivery services, and there were way more restaurants having to do delivery than ever had before. So they were all looking to hire. So also look to see who else in this time, who needs more people when you have no work to do, right? You can kind of map that out, and you might be able to get some temporary employment for your people, or just donate their time if it's a nonprofit. So those are all thoughts on being better prepared when something like this happens.
Jeff, one thing I know that you're big in is the philanthropy space and the nonprofit space. One thing that came in was from, I want to give her credit, was from Kala. She said that she was really inspired from your Me to We, and she's very much in the nonprofit space. She asked, how do you see that world shifting, and she says, how do we keep that mindset shift going and growing?
All right, so here is good news and bad news. And I'll start with the bad news there, because I've been contacted by a lot of smaller nonprofits, or ones that we work with, that are saying we're not going to make it, because they're this is a harsh reality, the same as business. Their cause is not a cause that's really core to the fight against the coronavirus. So in a time like this where everything's uncertain, people, all their donors are dried up. People are holding tight to their money because they don't know, they lost their own income for the time being. And so they're not getting donations and they're drying up. So this is definitely going to hurt some nonprofits who are going to have to find a way to hunker down. The flip side, though, is there are other nonprofits who have been for a long time waving their flag and trying to get attention that are now getting attention, and they are driving more donations. And those are the ones I was saying that that a lot of you could offer to volunteer your services for and help grow. An example would be I'm going to use elderly care. There's a lot of, they're talking about that how dangerous coronavirus is to elderly people, especially when they start to have respiratory problems. There are some elderly people that don't have somebody living with them, and they don't have someone checking on them and taking care of them. So there are a few nonprofits I was talking to that their service is they have vehicles, and they obviously used to do this physically. They would go around and check on all the elderly shut-ins that didn't have somebody. And our question now is, they could literally be in a horrible shape and no one's checking on them, and they may have contracted the virus. They have no way to get to a doctor or get to a hospital, get treatment, get anything. And so that was an example of all of a sudden people are saying, how do I help? And the answer is fund that nonprofit so that they can staff up, so that they have a bigger team of people calling and checking on and driving over and picking up when they needed to be transported. I was working with some early this morning, a group that's in Brooklyn, and all they're doing is bringing recruits and vehicles in to transport, which means they needed all the protective medical gear. But they were paying people, they were hiring people to get vehicles and to go get these people that showed symptoms and get them to a hospital right away, because they're the ones that are in danger of obviously coronavirus being fatal, these older people. So there was an example. That nonprofit didn't get much attention before. It's nice that you want to keep an eye on older people that no one's looking at, but it didn't seem core. Now everybody is saying we should be doing that all the time, and all of a sudden it woke people up, and they're hiring and people are making donations. So I think that the nonprofit world is going to shift as well. Some of them are going to grow bigger. Some of them aren't going to make it, but you could help. The obvious one is donations. This is a total side note, but people try to do everything they can. I think, Tim, you know this. Pitbull, the singer, is one of my best friends. And Pitbull just recorded a song called I Believe We Will Win that he just released. The whole idea was the song, 100% of all the charities are going to, all the proceeds are going to nonprofits. So, he said, we got to get money to nonprofits that no one's helping right now. And so he wrote a song just to raise money for nonprofits. There was a concert yesterday on Fox last night that Elton and some other people did. So certain nonprofits are getting boosted up, but besides donating, you could be calling the local office of nonprofits in your neighborhood and saying, hey, can we help? What could we do? And your entire work, all your employees could be on the phone checking on elderly people that they have a list of phone numbers for, or something like that.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you for One Life is, we're obviously embracing the shift and meeting people where they are. Hence the One Life Thrive that Hector talked about, where we're doing something every day of the week and getting together with the community to help them solve their, challenges and land on their feet. And I guess my question is how can we take our One Life Roadmap journal and get it into these high schools now and get it into all these, prisons and entities that could so use our core 4 teachings right now?
So I think that's a great idea, Tim, because just like some of the people on this call, a lot of people are now saying, after this, my reality might not be the same, right? Some people, literally, the business they were in or the job they had might not come back. And so they're back to their roadmap, what's the roadmap from coronavirus on for the rest of my life? Because I was on a roadmap and then they put up giant signs that said road closed, and I
Right.
can't go that way anymore.
Right.
And so I think that's a great time to start distributing the roadmap. And, you know, the answer, of course, as you know, is to just boldly reach out, right? You can be calling superintendents of school districts, so you get, 20 schools at a time, not one at a time necessarily, and offering and saying, we have this tool that helps people do planning during a time like this. So I would be, kind of manning the phone banks or email, in your guys' case, making a list of all the people who could benefit from this, school districts or whatever level you want, within university systems and school systems and all that, and calling the key players and just offering it. And one of the things you could do is just give it to, get it quickly to a few schools locally, so that when you call this bigger decision maker and he says, how do I even know this stuff works? You can say, why don't you call these two principals? Because they're already using it. Then they can tell you a live experience of how great this has been for their students. So continue to get some sort of testimonials during this time, but I would say just boldly start emailing and calling people.
Got it. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We're being fast on our feet, and we just created a Corona crisis One Life survival and thrive worksheet. It's kind of like what was I making before? What will I be making now? What do I need to get done, and how can I adjust and shift accordingly with all of this?
That's excellent.
Yeah, that's what we'll be
excellent.
going over with people on Saturday. And I think it's something we're going to come up with and either give to our community or charge $5 for this worksheet of where were you, where are you going forward. So.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. And that'll help a lot of people, because a lot of people are lost right now, as we know.
Yeah. This is the time to get back to the basics and to just go inside and do the, heavy lifting of getting somewhere. Jeff, we've had a few calls on real estate. What do you see? Are we looking at a V? Are we looking at a U? Is there going to be inflationary times? What do you see short term, long term?
Well, obviously short term, it's a buyer's market for the obvious reasons. People, when the economic future is unknown, people are very reluctant to make a large purchase. But then where's the opportunity in that I already saw numbers of the rental market going up, right? So people that I know, when you have a buyer's market for homes, because this is a time people would normally be spring, right? Listing their home for sale because families want to move when school ends. So when you get into this, April and May is normally a busy season in residential real estate. And now nobody can go visit houses. And so they're not showing them, and people don't want to make a major purchase anyway. So people on the investment side, I've heard this from a bunch of my friends, in real estate investment, the people that have a little bit of capital, it's a good time to buy because the prices are down. And then the other good part of buying is then you're in that landlord market. And right now, a lot of people, because their financial future is uncertain, are looking to rent. So rentals are up and purchase prices are down, which is a good business opportunity if you have any capital to be able to buy investment properties and rental properties right now. But it's a tough time to sell right now for the reasons we just discussed. People are just a little reluctant to be making a big purchase right now.
So if you were in the middle of an escrow, like you were buying something pre-corona, would you complete that deal? Would you renegotiate? Would you back out? Would you ask for more time? How would you handle something?
Here's what I think. I think that if you are in a position now that people can't get, if you're the buyer, people can't get for real estate what they were getting before there was a coronavirus. So you're in the driver's seat. Again, it's a buyer's market. You're in the driver's seat right now because people are not out showing houses and people are holding tight. So again, when you would normally have a busy April and May buying season for sellers, and you don't have that now, People that need to sell are much more desperate to do it, much more likely to negotiate, to do a deal with you. Otherwise, they're going to have a tough time selling.
Yeah, and one interesting thing, I sold real estate, from like 85 to 2003. Sometimes during shifts like this, the market shifted, but it's not like the stock market where you can see the price of Apple and Google.
Right.
Yeah, the sellers don't realize that it shifted, and there's kind of a disconnect.
Yes, you're correct. It's definitely harder to see unless you're out there doing transactions and reading them.
Exactly. Hey,
Joey.
Joey had a question. He said, you and I both share backgrounds in the event and video production industry. I'm curious on how you feel the virus will affect the climate of the live event industry.
All right. So my brother, Joey, Joey's family to me. It's a huge opportunity. Friends that I have in that space. So here is obviously the negative is really obvious. It's killing the live event industry, from conferences to concerts being canceled everywhere. So all the revenue people are expecting from live events are being canceled. But the smart people are in there saying, what is the future of electronic, right? The future of electronic virtual conferences and virtual entertainment was a small market. And now the smart people, Joey, are going to jump all over that and say, what's the opportunity here? So, for example, the fact that Elton and John last night, they did this concert from home. That concept, people thought was amazingly cool. What if you had Alicia Keys just playing her piano in her living room, but you felt like you were there with her and she was just singing to you? That wasn't a product before. She would have never done a concert from her living room. So all these people are saying, holy crap, intimate music experiences from artists virtually actually is really cool. What people thought was no one wants to do that. They want to go to a live concert. But there are going to be times, even when live concerts are back on, where they say you could be standing with 20,000 people and the stage is a dot way up there, or you can be sitting in the comfort of your home with your great sound system and feel like Alicia Keys is in your living room. That's going to be a new market. The same thing for business, for business events. People are trying to find ways. Most people just canceled it because they don't know the tools and the technology for doing live events virtually. And so I know a lot of people in that business that are calling me and saying, what technology should I be looking at so I can keep holding my events that'll make them, the most beneficial and enjoyable experience for people. So again, a new market is going to grow. The market for virtual business events and the market for virtual entertainment. And then just to add to that, entertainment's been crazy. I think we were talking yesterday that it's hard to find a movie that you haven't already seen during this quarantine, right? You're going through your Netflix, your Hulu, and your Vudo, and you're like, geez, we've already watched everything. What's left? So all forms of online entertainment, whether it's live or otherwise, but live is really cool when you've already watched all the movies and binge watched all the series. People are going to come up with cool new live event ideas. It might be a training. It might be some well-known singer teaching me how to play guitar live in my living room. And that kind of live event didn't even exist before. So Joey, I think that you should look at this as an exciting opportunity to deliver stuff that no one was really even looking for.
Well, hey, Joey also had one other question about what are your thoughts on small business leveraging with the SBA versus simple line of credit?
So the SBA, and I was part of working on that stuff. The good news, bad news is originally all they did was fund more money for more SBA loans. And the bad news was they didn't make it any easier to get one. So just because the SBA has more money to give, if their criteria is still the same, which the criteria was practically, we only loan money to people who don't really need it because the qualification is so hard. And so part of when I got called from the presidential task force to go to Washington, I was like, guys, that doesn't solve the problem because they're too hard to get. The criteria, and many of them, they were asking for a personal guarantee. That was the history of SBA loans a lot of times. and a personal guarantee from someone who just lost all their revenue because the world shut down. It was nonsensical. Now it's been fixed. And so now there's payroll protection loans, there's forgiveness period for the amount of money you're using for payroll. So there are brand new SBA rules that just came out that you need to get online and read. It's in the CARES Act. See, you know, the word CARES, that's what the stimulus package is called. So you need to pull up the CARES Act and leaf through that small business part because it just got modified. And now there's protection in there, but there didn't used to be. I know we're down to just a couple minutes here.
Yeah.
This is this has been so valuable, and it might be valuable to send you the chat, Jeff, because there's just so many words.
Actually, I would like to see that so I can follow up with people too.
Sure, that's an easy send to you. So one thing, and just to kind of bring us home, and it's hard, you know, to do this in a few minutes because you've given whole talks on this. But one of the questions that came in at the beginning was why is it important to have a vision in your life? And I'd imagine that, you know, one thing that was unfortunate to see was a lot of the domestic violence rates go up and child abuse rates go up. And my wife has a lot of friends in the police industry. It's not an industry, but on the force, and to hear a lot of those things happen, and the suicide and all the, you know, there's a lot of those things where people don't have that vision. So can you speak to why maybe now more than ever it's important to have that first core pillar that One Life talks about, which is a plan for your future, or that vision?
Yeah, for several reasons. One of them, well, here, let's go straight to the biggest one. The biggest one is, especially at a time like now, because your vision is hope. If you can see light at the end of the tunnel, if you can see a path, that's the importance of a roadmap after the vision. You got to start with a vision, but you got to draw a roadmap to it. If you can see a path, a place you want to be, and a path to getting there, it gives you hope. On your worst day, you say, it won't always be like this because I've just taken one step closer, one step further down my roadmap towards my vision. And each individual step I take gets me a little further away from this bad situation behind me and a little closer to this place I want to be. So hope is one of the big reasons. If you don't have a vision and you don't have a thought of what your life could be, then all you have is what it is. And if it's not great, then that's what you live in all day. So that vision, you need that hope to get up every day. You need that roadmap to know which direction. But one of the other things I like about a vision is it also helps you decide what not to do and who not to have in your life, right? When you have a vision on the wall, every morning you can get up, and you guys have heard me talk about sticking notes on your bathroom mirror about what you need to do next in your life so that you see it. Every morning when you get up and look at your bathroom mirror and you look at your vision, you can say, what am I going to do today? And anything that you were going to do that isn't getting you one step closer down your roadmap towards that vision, don't do it. And any people in your life that aren't helping you, aren't part of that vision and getting you there, in many cases, you know, you've got to move on from those people, or at least stop counting on them, or at the best you can. You got to get rid of the people and the activities that are not taking you to your vision. So vision helps me get rid of, stop doing things I shouldn't do, and get away from people that don't really add to me. And vision helps me get up every day, and even on my worst day, say, today is one step better than yesterday because I took a step forward towards my vision at the end of this road, and I'm a little bit closer. It gives me hope to get up every day.
You heard it, guys. Take it in, use it, and I just encourage you to pay this. I think one of the big things that stuck with me was Jeff said, don't pay it backwards, you know, pay it forwards. And I think that is something that the 90 people or so on this call can all do. So thank you so much, Jeff, for all of this. This has been super wonderful. If people want to just stay connected with you, I know you're pretty stuck right now, but usually you're globetrotting. So just online, is there a best place to stay connected?
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is the one that I use the most because it's more focus and less noise, right? On a lot of the social media platforms, they're more social. People are sharing pictures of their dog, the funny thing their dog did today or whatever, which is all part of life. But I use LinkedIn as the professional one. What's going on in the world? Who are we helping? How are we helping them? So LinkedIn is the best way for me.
Wonderful.
Good to know.
Wonderful. And the rest of you guys, I'd love for you to stay connected with us on throughout the whole time that this is going on. I mentioned that we have our One Life Thrive group. You'll see that there's things going on every day that we'll post here. So if you just go to onelifefullylived.org/thrive, you can get all that good stuff. And we'd encourage you guys to get involved. Some of you guys are, Jeff mentioned family and One Life family. And if you guys are, then, you know, it's always great to have you back. And the rest of you guys, we'd encourage you to come and get involved and go deeper with us. And you can do that a couple of ways. The first is to just share with your friends and your family, invite them to these calls, invite them to the Facebook group. We're on Instagram and YouTube, and you can just share any of our social platforms with them and get them connected with us. We also have a contributor club. And if you are, you know, someone who values personal growth, or you're someone who's starting to see the value of trainings like these, we'd encourage you to join our contributor club, where you can join regular master classes like these on a monthly basis with high-level people. We had Robert Kiyosaki and David Osborne, and the guy who saved Metallica, Phil Towle, and all these people. Hoffman will actually be back on another masterclass later on this year, I believe, in the summer. So you guys can stay connected with people like that, and also get one-on-one coaching from those high-level experts as well. Or you can just start a One Life fundraiser. What's cool is we have people like Brent Fulelig. He recently, this past year, raised over $20,000 for One Life by swimming across a strait in one of the Great Lakes. And so he raised enough money to bring the One Life Roadmap experience to Detroit. And so if you want to bring One Life to your city once this whole thing settles down, or you want to, you know, bring it to your schools, or, you know, we've gone to juvenile detention centers and, you know, halfway homes and rehab centers and all these different places to really bring the One Life Roadmap to people who frankly need it the most. And so you guys can start a fundraiser to do that. Or obviously you can donate and support One Life directly. Everything, you know, helps to fund these outreach programs, and our mission is to give to you guys so that you guys can throw down the rope and give to other people as well. So we want to thank you for all the time and the attention that you give and spend with One Life. And we know that during these times, you could be you could be spending your time doing different things, and we just appreciate you spending it with us.
Hey, Hector, is there a way to go off the Facebook Live, unmute or kill the recording and just keep the conversation going?